Yeah, so we live right now anyway. So we live on Facebook, not on the radio. So we about to. So I'm gonna share this also to your page as well. We live on Facebook, not on the radio. All right, so we got you all set up. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and switch the microphones now, so you won't be able to hear me until the show start. All right.
Okay.
WBISLP 1069, Winterville, Ayden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina.
I'm trying to be a better man. Folks just don't understand. Trying to do all I can to deal with this addiction in me. Lord, I want to change. I can't stay the same. But the sins that in my veins, it's trying its best just to kill me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the U-Turn Show here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM here in Greenville, North Carolina. I am your host, Richard Taylor. And if you have not been to our website, please go to the website, www.wbisawesomeradio.org, and download all of our apps on the Google Play, the Alexa, and also the Apple Store. Also, this is an interactive show, and let me put the number on the screen. So if you do want to call in and talk to our guest, we have a very wonderful guest today. You can feel free to do that. Let me put that up there. Okay, so that number is up there now. Well, first of all, I just want to thank God for giving us another week to live and be on earth and make it to another week of the U-Turn Show. I have a special guest, my brother. He's an author, a speaker, just an all-around spoken word artist, just all around great individual with an awesome story. Please welcome to the show my brother, Mr. Ralph Wilkins, better known as Brother Atif. How you doing today?
I'm good. And yourself?
I am doing great, man. Great. Thanks for asking, man. And I just want to welcome you to the show. I met you through a mutual friend. Shout out to Tobias, big time artist. He gave you my number. He knew that you were an author and I was an author, so he connected us. And so, of course, the U-Turn Show kind of highlights people like me and yourself who, travel down the wrong path, but also have made the proper strides to turn their life around. So, I like to start from the beginning, man. Where were you born, Brother Atif?
I was born in Washington, D.C. on October the 12th in the year of 1950 at a place called Howard University Hospital. Actually, it was Freedman's Hospital at the time, but it's now Howard University Hospital, or a branch of.
So that was 1950. So that would make you 72.
72 years old.
All right, 72 years young, man. Because if you see this brother in person, man, you see how good of a shape he is. So, did you grow up in D.C. the entire time, or what was your childhood like? What did you live during your childhood?
Well, I was born in D.C. because, we lived in Maryland, Prince George's County.
Okay.
And in 1950, and I don't know when it changed, but if you was black and you were pregnant, a pregnant woman, you couldn't have a baby at the hospital in Prince George's County. It was called Prince George's County General at the time. Mm-hmm. And so you had to go over to D.C. to have the baby, and that's how I got born in D.C.
Oh,
but
wow.
I was raised in a little small all-black town called Fairmont Heights, Maryland. It's in Prince George County.
So how was it being raised? Like how was your child? Was it do you have a good family life? Like I always start off with like father. Was your father in the home and things like that? What was your childhood like?
I had an awesome childhood. I had a father and a mother in the home, and an entire community around me. To I was raised by a village.
Okay.
My parents never fell short. Usually, people say, well, when the parents or the mother falls short, that the neighborhood kick in. But my parents never fell short. I'm a recipient of some real good butt whippings when I was out messing up.
Uh-huh.
And the neighbors, they would ease down there and say, Miss Francis, Ralph did this and Ralph did that and Ralph did the other. Here it come right now. And my mother, she would look at me, and if it was like something slight, she would pop me pretty good across my legs,
Uh-huh.
But if it was something a little heavier, she would send me in the house, tell me, go in there and sit down. Wait till your father come home. And man, needless to say, I only messed up I didn't mess up repetitively on the same thing.
Uh-huh.
Because I was smart. I was smart enough to not do the same thing, but do something similar.
Okay.
Something a little off to the left or the right, And but it didn't make a difference. I got the same whipping. I mean, he had a belt. He had a strap.
Uh-huh.
About 3 feet long. It was leather, and he had cut fringes in the bottom of it. And man, he used to tear me up. I took it and hit it, and it didn't make a difference. Didn't make a difference. He said, "Go on outside and get three of them mulberry branches." You know anything? You know anything about mulberry branches? They have them little knots on them, and he would take them and plait them. But the good thing about mulberry branches, they were brittle. They last like 4 whacks.
Okay.
Man, those 4 whacks was like, good God Almighty. He striped me up.
Yeah, I remember those times too. Like, yeah, you can handle your mother's whooping, but then when your father get a hold of you, it's a whole different animal, man. So I can attest to that as well.
See, my mama would show me a lot of love, and then until I just messed up so bad. I remember we had a dog named Buck. He was a pit bull. He was a Brennel. He was the house dog. He was a sweet, mild-mannered dog, but he was trained to, 1, guard the perimeter of the yard, and 2, never let any of the children, any of my sisters and brothers or myself, leave the yard, right? And the neighbor had a little dog, little mutt, little something, I don't know what it was. They called him King, and I said, he ain't no King. I said, come on, Buck. I put Buck on a leash and took him next door and had Buck whip him, right? And my mama, she saw it out the window when I brought Buck back. The dog didn't hurt Buck, right?
Okay.
Man, when I'm come marching through the front door with my chest out, all proud, she looked at me and she said, "Come here, you." I turned around and started running, and at that point, I could see it in the face that, man, I messed up, right? That woman chased me and tackled me like Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
And flipped me over and put her knees on my arms, and she punched me upside my head, 50. And when your father come home, you're going to get more. And she snatched me up by my shirt. I was about 11 or 12 years old. I started to fill out a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Snatched me up like I was a rag doll, man.
Mama.
And threw me in the bedroom. And we had this pothole in the street in front of the house. Whenever my father would come, his passenger side driver wheel would hit that pothole, and that rattly bumper. And I heard that. Oh boy, man, he came in there, and time he hit the front door on the porch, she started talking. And she told him, "Now you deal with it." man, that man whipped me that day. Because Buck was a pet. Buck was actually his dog, his pet. He had personally trained Buck, and man, he did, man. Needless to say, I never did that again.
So were you the only child?
No, it was 9 of us. I have a baby sister. She was born in 1960, I think.
Okay.
60. She was 1 or 2 years old when I was fooling with the dog. Because I was 11. That was 1961.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That last whipping there kind of straightened me out. Kind of got me together. You know, for about 75% together. Because I still have a student streak. You know.
So at what point did you start, doing, I guess, more stuff out in the streets? That they kind of.
Actually, I didn't really go up land in the streets.
Okay.
The first book I published called The Old African. When I was 11 years old, that was when that story happened to me.
When you was 11?
Yeah, because I was selling newspapers for a man named Mr. Fagan. The name of the paper was The Muhammad Speaks. He wanted 25 cents a paper and told me I could sell them for as much as I wanted.
Uh-huh.
And I was selling them for 30 cents, 26 cents, 25 cents, whatever I could get. And I met this guy, this old man. He was sitting in his backyard over in a place called Cedar Heights, Maryland. And he was sitting by a table. He had an accent. I think he was African or Jamaican or something. He had a strong accent. And I was trying to sell him a paper, Muhammad Speaks paper, because most of my neighborhood, all my neighborhood was black. They had 3 neighborhoods: Fairmont Heights, Cedar Heights, and Jefferson Heights.
Okay.
Cedar Heights and Jefferson Heights were like where the slaves were kept back in the day, right?
Okay.
And he had bought a house that had belonged to like the whip cracker, and and there was an old shed in the back that had been fallen over and ramshackled and laid on the ground. And when I went back there to sell him the newspaper, he was crying. And he was sitting there crying, and he was just shaking his head. And he had this long stick on the table with a metal iron ring around it, a shackle. Look, it was a slave shackle. And he told me what he found. He said, I found this in that chain to the wall. And I looked inside, because part of the shed was falling in. When you go in it, the right side had fallen in, the left side was still up. And you could see the slave shackles on the wall, the chains. You could actually see them. At 11, I did not know what that was or what that meant. I had no idea. And he told me, he says, this is a human bone. And someone had been chained up in there and left to die. Now, I didn't know what death was because I didn't lose my grandmama until the next year. I was 13 when I lost my grandmama, Nana. Yeah, so at my life, my whole mode of thinking changed. That changed, when I realized what he said, because he just kept telling me some human being was chained up in there and left to die, and the bone was black. It was black, dark gray black. It didn't look like a bone. It didn't look like nothing I'd ever seen before. But I wouldn't know it was a bone except the shape of it. It was from the wrist to the forearm, this part. And I left there that day, and I just remember that story. I just remember that. Following year, my grandmama died, and that was my introduction to death. Right, my personal, up close and personal introduction. The same month or 2 weeks later, I was walking down the street that we lived on a street called 59th Avenue. The First Methodist Church was up on top of the hill. And I was walking by and I saw these people going in and out the church, and it was like a Wednesday or Thursday. So that was the church I went to. That was my church. So I went up in there and looked, and they were having a wake. Didn't know it was a wake at the time. See, none of this stuff was all this stuff was new to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was this lady. She was laying in there, and I recognized her from a dream I had. Right, I had a dream. I don't know, about 2 months earlier, and this lady came to me, and she was talking to me in my sleep, and I couldn't remember what she was saying or nothing like that. But I remember that face. When I looked in that casket and I saw her face, that shook me down to my socks. I ran up out of there. I'm gonna keep the nature of the dream to myself,
Okay.
right? But it shook me for real. And at that point, I started thinking about dying and death, and stuff like that. But it wasn't like right in front of my mind. It was in the back of my mind. I say I had plenty of opportunities to get into the street life, but my father was such a strict disciplinarian. He hated drugs. He hated drug dealers and dope fiends. He was a God-fearing man that he did his best to raise us right. He did his level-headed best. And 8 out of 9, they did their best. Me, I messed up.
You messed up. Okay, so let's get into that. How did you mess up? Like at what point did you start to go the wrong way? That do you see in hindsight?
I used to fight all the time. If you're growing up in an all-black neighborhood and being light like I am, I always had to fight the dark-skinned blacks. Always. I mean, it was I leave from my mama's house, from my parents' house to the store up on the corner, rental store, to get something to buy something, some bread or some bologna meat or something like that for the house. And I'd have to fight one or two dudes when I got to the store, and another one when I came out, because they just kept trying to bully me and take stuff. And I've never been one to just take stuff like that. I've never been. I've always had a little size to me. I've always been thick, a little bit of punchy stomach, and quick hands and quick feet. And I didn't have any skills, so to say, but I would fight. And they used to say, "Oh, Ralph Wilkins, he crazy. But nobody ever stopped to say, well, why? Why is he fighting? If y'all leave him alone, he won't act crazy. But that didn't fit into that scenario. And then none of the light skinned kids had a problem with me. It was just them little, I'm gonna call them pickaninnies, them little black beady head ones, with nothing better to do than to try to say. They used to tell me, "You think you white? You think you white?" Because I was that light. I was
that light. Okay.
I was a lot lighter than I am now. But I wasn't light, bright yellow. I was red, like red skin.
I got you.
But the tone of my skin is more red than yellow, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of my brothers, Stuart, God rest his soul, he passed now. He's passed. He got tired of me getting worked over, because I lost a lot of fights. I'm talking. They would beat me up. I wouldn't run, but they would get tired of whipping me and leave, because I wouldn't quit fighting. So he took me down to the boys club in D.C. in the boys club, the number 3 boys club, down on 3rd and K. That's where it was at the time. Guy who the trainer was, got Truckhead Cooper. And my first night there, my brother was standing there. He said, "Can he fight?" I said, "Nah, but he will. But he ain't got no fight." So he put me in some gloves, rubbed some Vaseline on my face, strapped some headgear on, put a mouthpiece in my mouth, and told me to say, "Go fight him." And the guy I was going to fight, he was a true heavyweight, big guy, and he was an old dude, right? And that man whipped me, man, but I wouldn't quit. He whipped me and whipped me. About the 3rd round, they had to put more Vaseline on my face because he whipped it all off of me, right? Come to find out, he was a professional heavyweight, but he had seen his best years, and he came there to train and maybe help some youngins out. And the guy took me on his wing. Man, I forget this guy's name because we only worked out twice. But he put me in a little square and told me how to throw 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And how to step, how to move my head. 1, 2, 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had me doing that. After about, I don't know, 8 months, I had a novice fight there at the gym with another young novice. Me and this guy boxed for 3 rounds, 3 2-minute rounds, amateur stuff. And I beat the guy. And Chuckhead said, "Man, your brother ought to be fighting in the Golden Gloves because he's got talent." But my brother Stewart said, "No, let's keep him doing this for a while." And I did that from the time I was 13 to the time I was like 16. And come to find out, I was sneaking away because my father didn't know, my mama didn't know. Stewart, he was covering for me. I don't know what my mama and them thought I was doing, but I had calmed down. I stopped so much fighting in school. That's because a guy named Charles Booty Staggs. He pulled me up one day and hit me upside my head, and I dropped my books, and I beat him like he was a heavy bag. And everybody said, "Man, that Ralph Wilkins, he can box. He can box. He can box now. He can box." So most of them just left me alone.
We got to take a quick station break real quick, but we're going to be right back on 106.9 FM Awesome Radio. Just 1 second.
To the man. This is Ken Ham, author, speaker, and blogger on science and the Bible's reliability. This week, we're looking at mistakes in logic people often make when discussing creation and evolution, or any other topic for that matter. Here's a big one: ad hominem attacks. This means to the man. It refers to arguments that are nothing more than an attack on the person making the argument, not the argument itself. Evolutionists are often guilty of this when they write about us at Answers in Genesis. They'll just accuse us of being dumb or uneducated and ignore the arguments we actually make. Ad hominem arguments can be persuasive because they appeal to emotions, but we shouldn't fall for them. Engage with arguments. Don't attack the person.
Discover more when you visit us at AnswersRadio.com. Find answers to your questions about science, the Bible, creation, and evolution when you go to AnswersRadio.com.
This ain't your plan for me to die up in these streets. Oh Lord, can you help me?
And we are back here at 106.9 FM Awesome Radio with the U-Turn Show. I'm your host, Richard Taylor, and I got my special guest, Brother Atif. Now, when we left, you was talking about how you learn how to fight.
Yeah, and that got me in a trouble.
What learning how to box and fight? So how did that get you in trouble? Let's expand on that.
I was out on my 16th birthday. My birthday falls in October, and we had a thing called a teen club. Was up at what they call the firehouse in Family Heights, and we would go and dance and hang out and stuff. Innocent stuff, right? I was coming home one night, and I stopped by a place called Melvin's Crab House. If anybody listens to this and they know anything about Prince George's County, Eastern Avenue, Melvin's Crab House used to be. And I went in there and I got an apple pie, a slice of apple pie. And this guy was coming through the door and he bumped into me and I bumped him back. Because I was, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't that guy that you could bump into and walk away. Never have been. And when we got outside, because he turned around and left, and I kind of followed him out the door. It was time for me to leave. And when I got outside, he asked me, "You gonna say excuse me for bumping into me?" I said, "No." And I hit him on the chin.
You chin checked him right then.
because I wasn't gonna let him chin check me first,
Yeah.
right? And we scuffled, and I hit him with a left hook, and he went down. And he didn't look like he was out, but he wasn't getting back up, so I left. Later on that night, the police came to the door and said that I had killed him. They said that I had hit him in the head with a rock from the back with a brick and killed him. And that wasn't true. That wasn't so.
Mm-hmm.
I told my father I didn't do it. I didn't do it. They said they got 3 witnesses there. Three people witnessed it, and I don't know if they're still alive. And I don't want to call their names, right?
Uh-huh.
Actually, it was 4 people. There was only 4 people that were out there that night. 2 of them were very nefarious.
Okay.
The other 2, I don't know. I think they were dating, my boyfriend and girlfriend. And even though I think these 2 guys have passed away now, they got an older brother, and I don't want to say something, call their names out, and have him go by and jump on one of my relatives up there in Maryland, right?
Okay.
Catch one of my nephews and hurt him, or do something like that, right? So
Definitely.
I'm gonna let it go, right? Their names go. But my father got a lawyer. He got me out on $5,000 bail, right? They locked me up, and the lawyer told him, "You give me $5,000, and I'll get him, keep him out of jail." And my father put the house up, the house with all my sisters and brothers in it. He put the house up. He loved me. He stuck by me, right?
Yeah.
So he worked it out. He said, "You take a guilty plea." I said, "But I didn't do it." He said, "But you got 3 people saying it, saying that you did this." I say, 3 people. So I went to him.
You went to the people.
Yeah, and 2 of them said it wasn't them, but the other 2 said it was them. And it was 2 of them. I couldn't beat them. And I thought about it for a minute. The guy said, take a plea and you can get out. Because my thing is, I'm going to get out and I'm going to fix them.
Yeah.
I'm going to fix these 2, the 2 brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll fix them. Because I was in kind of a rage, right? And
How old were you then?
I was 17.
Okay.
I just 16, just turned 17. It was just after my 17th birthday. And 1967. Yeah. And we went to court, and instead of the judge taking my guilty plea and letting me go on probation like he said he would, he sent me to prison. Judge Powers. And he said, from the looks of him, he's a salty one. So we got to do something about that. This is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He sent me to a spot called Hagerstown. And that pretty much destroyed me from being anything nice, anything good, or anything decent. Because I ran into guys from Baltimore, and I had to fight them guys every day for the first 6 months. And I had to learn how to use a shank and how to not get shanked, because they was all homosexuals. They all, I was light skinned. I had a big bush. I had light eyes. I was a little pretty boy. And they all said, "You look like a girl, so we're going to make you a girl." And I didn't have no girl in me.
Yeah.
So, it was all I could do to keep from running my bit up.
Yeah.
And my father kept visiting me. Every time he visited me, I would be on lockup. So what I did was I volunteered for a job on the rock pile, Shanks detail. I was at the old jail in Hagerstown. And that kept me out of trouble, doing that hard labor, breaking rocks, literally. The crush and run, the little blue stones in crush and run.
Uh-huh.
The Blue Ridge Mountains, that's where that stuff come from. And we was making mountains into gravel. At a rock crusher, it would make break them down to about the size of smaller than like a half of a watermelon.
Okay.
Throw them on the belt, and they would go up the belt, and it would crush it and crush everything we put on the belt up into little fine stuff. Anyway, while I was locked up, my father died in 1969. I think it was April. It was the spring of the year, and seeing me in prison broke his heart. That I think that killed him, right? That killed him. And all I could think of was white people and what they do, right? Now, case in point, man, he died with his kidney and his liver and everything stopped functioning, so he needed to be on dialysis. And they took me to see him. They said he was going to die, and he was courting death. They took me from Hagerstown to go visit him before he died, right? Before he passed. And the guy in the room next to him was on a dialysis machine. Those machines in those days were great big boxes like refrigerators, great big old things, right? But he was like 90 years old. My father was next door, and he was 46 years old, right? And they said they didn't have a machine for him because I asked them, and the Hagerstown cops, two big white boys, they weren't, I don't know, they were rednecks or racists or maybe just doing their job. I don't know. They didn't treat me bad. They didn't say nothing. They didn't give me a hard time. I had proven myself on Shank's detail, and I was kind of a team leader, right? And old man Shank said he wanted me to go say goodbye to my father. So they did it. They called him Captain Shanks. He was the head of the Klan, I think, there in Hagerstown. Because Hagerstown institutions, the Maryland State Institution, Hagerstown was full of them. Anyway, and that just made me more angry. When I got out in '69, September, August '69, right?
Oh, so you only did what, 2 years?
Yeah. I did about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And but I had been really made crazy because I was doing strong stuff. Man, when I say I didn't get in them streets, I mean I didn't sell no dope, nothing like that, right? I didn't do no burglaries, nothing like that. But I was robbing drug dealers and number backers. After
you got out from that first bid.
Yeah.
So hold on, we got one more station break, and we're gonna come right back. Stay right there with the story. 106.9 FM.
We have a ministry crisis on our hands. What can we do now? That's the call we receive. Stay tuned.
If you're in ministry, today's legal alert is just for you. Here's attorney David Gibbs Jr.
Each and every day, my Christian Law Association staff and I have the opportunity to speak with faithful servants of the Lord who experience a crisis in ministry. A pastor recently called with the heartbreaking news that a ministry staff member had been caught stealing money from the ministry. A Christian Law Association attorney was able to advise the pastor regarding the legal steps that he should take to deal with this serious issue. But our attorneys were also able to do more than offer legal advice. Our legal missionaries at the Christian Law Association had the privilege of praying with this fine pastor about the crisis and also assuring him that the Lord specializes in helping us in life when crisis comes. Of course, the pastor knew that, but I think the reminder was helpful. When a crisis occurs in your ministry, please know that we are here to help. It's the Christian Law Association.
Our free newsletter addresses lots of issues like the ones we've been discussing today. Why not sign up for it now at christianlaw.org. christianlaw.org.
And we are back, 106.9 Awesome Radio. Back with the U-Turn Show. I'm your host, Richard Taylor. Continuing with the interesting a story of Brother Ratief. Now, we left, you were talking about getting out of the first prison bid, and how you were kind of going around strong arming.
Yeah, and I strong armed from Prince George's County all the way across D.C. I hooked up with a guy, one of my neighbors, who was a renowned robber and killer. He was a real gangster tough guy. But he was one of my best friends. And I was just on a slippery slope, sliding down. And this whole time, my mother, she was holding it down. So my father passed, and she had, I was the fourth born.
Okay.
I was 18, 19 years old. Everybody after me was 2 years apart. 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, and 6, right? And she held it down for everybody. And my oldest brother, he got back from Vietnam, and he got a job, and he was holding it down. But at the same time, I was out there making money and acting crazy, and I had lost my mind. I didn't give a second thought to going home and give my mom the money.
Okay.
And I think about that today, and I'm ashamed. For real, because I wasn't a man. I had the body of a man, but I wasn't a man because I had responsibilities. My siblings, my younger siblings were part of my responsibility. But I was running them streets and doing that crime, right? I was in hate of everything, everybody. My mama was a good Christian lady, man. God rest her soul, man. She was, and she didn't just, but she wasn't no quiet person like that. She confronted me a few times about, and I would run off and stay gone for like a month at a time, and just be living in the streets, and bad hygiene, just living like I was living. I was living like I was an urchin, and I didn't have to. I could have went home. I could have poured any of that money I was making into that, because I was, messing up money, gambling, messing up money. I didn't get high. I didn't do no dope or nothing like that. Matter of fact, when I was not strong arming guys, I was robbing drug dealers. A lot of them was drug dealers now. I let them keep the dope. Just give me the cash,
Yeah, and I think you told me you never used the gun, right?
No. Now, I used the knife twice. I didn't have to stick nobody. But usually when I got up close enough, I hit them with an overhand right or a left hook, to go to the body, downstairs, boom, boom. And they would go down. And I would jump on them, boop, 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 boop. Then I would run through their pockets while he was trying to get something together. And I would tell him, I'm gonna beat you some more if you get up. I'm gonna beat you some more. And they used to call me Frog. And he would say, "Come on, Frog. Man, I knew your father." I said, yeah. He dead now. And that didn't help, because all them guys who said they knew my father and all that stuff, they never went by there and brought my mama no money home. I know a lot of them probably owe them money, right? Got KG Waiters, John Davis, Manny Pear, all these guys. I know they owe them. They probably owe them money. Of course, he didn't like Manny Pear very much. Manny Pear smoked weed, and my father, he didn't hold with no drugs, nothing like that.
Okay.
But and that went on until
Go ahead.
That went on until I caught the second murder beat. But now, in between, okay. I've done things to people, beat them up, walked up and knocked them out, broke their jaw, broke their ribs and their arms. And I've walked up and hurt people. And they all said used to say, "Oh, he ain't tough. Look at him. He's little white son of a so and so."
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody respected my fight game. Hell, I got in a fight with Sugar Ray Leonard's cousin Dale, Uncle Dale, at Palmer Park Rec in the parking lot. A friend of mine was robbing. They had a crap game. You know how youngins have a crap game going. He was young hustlers. And me and one of my stick-up buddies were down there. Strong arm buddies was down there. He took a belt off and he whipped him away from the money and took the money. But we didn't have no car. We had to walk to Palmer Park with Family Heights, and that was a long walk, right? So, down Sheriff Road. So, Dale Leonard come out there. He jumped on my buddy, and I jumped in, and they say one-on-one, and me and Dale went around the parking lot. Now I didn't know that Dale was a boxer, and he was of some renown. People would talk about how good he could fight, I fought that dude for 20 minutes, and all he did was jump around and dance around like a rooster. I had to I had alligator shoes on. I had to take my gaiters off because they had leather bottoms, right?
Yeah.
And I had a nylon socks on, and I had to go with my sock feet and catch him and go to his body, slow him down a little bit. But then the whole of Palmer Park came out to jump on me, and a guy named Derek Wilson told him, "Don't do that. Y'all back off." He was built like Hercules, So I put my shoes on, and me and Shaky left. We didn't get the money back, but it went like $15, $20. It wasn't worth all that, right? I mean, why are you robbing them? We had more money on us. We had caught a guy on the way over there. We caught a guy pull up and said, "Man, y'all want to ride?" We robbed him, right? We beat him up to his car. We didn't take his car, but we moved it down the street about quarter mile so he could catch up to it, because we searched the car for a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Not so we could take it and use it, but we're taking it and throw it away because Shaky might have kept it, but I didn't want to keep it because what I need a gun for? I mean, I was a rock'em sock'em robot, not one punch,
Yeah.
Anyway, we had like $600 in our pocket. We didn't need no money, right? But he was just, I don't know what was wrong with him that night. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor that point because he ain't here to defend himself. He's not dead. He's not passed away. He won't talk to me anymore. He has nothing else to say to me. We don't talk to him anymore. But we know each other's alive, right? So anyway, the night this second murder went down. Anyway. The day before, 2 days before that, I was on the corner on Chapel Oaks on Sheriff Road and Nash Street on the corner.
Okay.
There was a High's ice cream store there in that building. Me, one of my Confederates, and another guy was standing there just talking, right? And one of my Confederates, he saw these young girls going by, and he said, "Man, look at that. She got a nice so-and-so, so-and-so. I'd like to get into that." And I don't know which one he was talking about, but one of my baby sisters was in the crowd. So I said, well, which one you talking about? Before he could say something, I smacked him.
Mm-hmm.
With the left hand. Then I punched him with the right hand real quick. Pop, pop. When he went down, I jumped on him and beat him. I told him, I said, that was my baby sister. You don't talk about like, and I know he could have been talking about one of them other girls. But I don't know. I didn't like what he said.
Yeah.
I use that as an excuse. So he got up and left, and I went my way. And the next day, he sent me a message. "Look, we got to squash this because we got money to make." I said, "Okay, cool." I said, "So I'll see you tomorrow at 8:00 by High's." And on the corner where the High's ice cream store was, the parking lot. In the back of the parking lot was like shrubs, bushes, weeds. And in those weeds, you couldn't see in there from the parking lot, but in those weeds was a shooting gallery, guys back here shooting dope, women turning tricks. You know, it was a cesspool, right?
Okay.
Cesspool. So what I do is I get there at 6 o'clock the next day, right? And I see him standing there. I said, oh, he by himself. But then I see he got a guy named Matt Gibbs with him. And so I step around kind of to his right side. When Matt Gibbs see me, he said, Tom, look out. Tom turned and saw me, and I put both hands up. I say, you say you want to talk. But he didn't talk. He went in his coat and he had a sawed-off shotgun. He put it together, click up. He broke it down and he put 2 shells and boom, boom. He closed it back up. He went to bring it around. By that time, I had stepped around in front of him. I grabbed the barrel like this. See, this the barrel.
Okay.
Like that. At the end of the barrel. I grabbed the barrel. I grabbed my other hand on the butt. And I pull him to me. I try to snatch it out of his hand. And we yank, and he wouldn't let go. So I stomped on his foot. Boom. When I stomp his foot, he fall to me. When he fall to me, I hit him, bam, with my forehead. The gun come loose, and I'm pulling like this, and it come all the way around, and it went on. Boom. Right? Or more of a bump. Like that, a bump. Like that. And because we were next to the wall, a brick wall. And it hit him here. And it was bird shot, I think. They said it was number 4, number 6, bird shot one of them. And it hit him, and it was just far enough away to act like a big sword. And it chopped his head off. But when just before it went off, he said, "Why me?" I'll never forget it. He said, "Why me? Why me?" Boom. His body dropped, right? His head hit. Sound like a coconut. And I went in the shop. I was crying. I just went in the shop. I'd never seen anything like that. I went in the shop. And all I could think of was, what you done now. They're going to kill you. They're going to kill you. I went, man. At that point in your life, you think of all the other things you could have been doing. Right? I could have been working a job, had a good job for a minute up at Fairfield Farms Kitchens and at Circle Construction. Had 5 jobs. But I was just so angry and mean-spirited, couldn't work them. And I kept thinking, what you gonna do? So I walked away. I just walked away.
Where did you go? Did you like go on the run, or you just went home? Or?
No, I went on the run. I went to New York. This was 1969, 1970, the end of 70, December 70.
So you had only been out probably about a year from the first.
Yeah, just long enough to be off parole.
Okay.
And that's where when I got up there, I was so disturbed about what I saw, because I still can't sleep at night. It's been 50 years, and I still have trouble sleeping. I still see this guy. I still see that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to study Islam in New York. I went to New York. And
who brought you to that teaching? Like did you?
Man, I was up there broke. I would do a strong arm robbery here and there, right? but it wasn't much, wasn't enough, and I didn't know who had the money. And this New York, so in the late 70s, the late 1970s, and heroin was hitting hard, right? And the guys I was robbing was dope fiends. I mean, yeah, $50 here, $100 there, And I was walking down the street, I was stumbling because I hadn't had no rest. I'm sleeping like 2 hours a day. I'm sleeping on the subway, and I walked down the street, and I walked into. I was in Brooklyn, and I saw this mosque, and it said Yasin Masjid Yasin Masjid Yasin. I went in there and I sat down and started talking to the brother about Islam. I knew about the Nation of Islam. I didn't know about Islam. It's two different things, two separate entities, right? And the brother sit me down and explained it to me. So he asked me where you stand. I said I'll be on the subway. And so they had a room in the back. They let me stay in a room in the back, and they let me shower, change my clothes, fed me, and I didn't have to go to the classes. I didn't have to, but I was curious, and I decided that I had to turn myself in. And I told the brother that I was come back and turn myself in. He said, well, take your Shahada and think about it. Here's your Quran, think about it. So I took my Shahada. I raised my finger and I said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. There's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his apostle. And I hopped on the bus and came back to Maryland. And I went and turned myself in.
How long was you up there for before you did that?
A couple of months.
Okay.
A couple of months.
Was your conscience eating you? After you I guess took your Shahada, or was it eating you before?
Well, it was eating me real bad before. But in Islam, it's like this. When you take your Shahada, you make your Shahada Kalima, all your sins are erased. And it's like being born again, right there. Boom, right? That's why when people tell me that they're born again Christian, I used to argue with them, and then I thought about the tenets of Islam, and I said, well, that's almost the same thing that we do. So, I don't bother with Christians about that no more. I leave Christians alone there. I leave, them born again boys, I leave them alone. Because we all had to do something to be born again, to come back. Because God's grace and love is overwhelming. It's overbearing. It's overshadowing, all consuming. But it don't mean nothing if you're not willing to let it in. So, you say about horses, right?
You can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you're thinking, man. Yeah. Anyway.
So when you got down there, like, what did they say when you turn yourself in?
Oh, they try to do a bunch of stuff. They try to say, well, was Sonny Swan with you? And I said, no, Sonny wasn't with me. I was by myself. And when I tried to explain, something say, shut up, don't say nothing. So I shut up and didn't say nothing. So the police, I called my mama and told her, little mama, I just turned myself in. Because, they were harassing her. They were harassing her real bad. Going by the house, kicking the door in, stuff like that, right? So me turning myself in stopped all of that. Because if they would have hurt my mother, because my brother Stuart, the one who took me to teach me to box, he was
Wait 1 second. We gotta end the radio show, but we're gonna keep the interview going on live on our social media. But thank y'all for tuning in. Join us next week here on 106.9 FM, Awesome Radio.
You still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, okay, go
yes.
ahead. I'm sorry.
My brother Stuart was a wild one, right? Whenever the police would come there, he would buck up. And I knew it was only a matter of time before they shot him and killed him because these were Prince George's County police, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was early 70s, it was 71, so 1971. So when I turned myself in, I alleviated all of that.
Okay.
But the police wrote a statement out, I wouldn't sign it. I said, no. And they tried to use it in court, but you know, the judge wouldn't allow it in court because it wasn't unsigned. And the judge says, why you won't sign it? I said, because I didn't write it. It's not mine. I didn't make it. He said, that's what he said. So you want to charge him with this murder? You know? Well, his name was Judge William B. Bowie. He railroaded me all the way through for 4 days of trial. I didn't testify. I didn't put on any witnesses in my behalf. I waited a year in the county jail to go to trial. I went through 6 pretrial hearings where the witnesses came in and testified 6 separate times. And each time they told a different story. A guy by the name of, a girl by the name of Sherilyn Anderson, Garver's associates passed away. And a guy named Charles Graham, he's still alive, a little rat. And I don't care what he say. And he live in Deanwood, Prince George's County. Anyway, so they railroaded me through and gave me the balance of my natural life.
The balance of your natural life.
Yeah.
So what does that mean in real terms?
Okay. Everybody tell you balance of natural life means till you die. You know, they balance natural life, you know, but if you don't die and your natural lifespan is recorded in numbers, yours and mine. When I was born in 1950, the average lifespan of a black man was 55 years. Did you know that? That was my natural lifespan according to the Smithsonian Institution.
Okay.
Now, if he would have said life, that's an open-end deal, and you stay till you die.
Okay.
So what I just gave you was some good law from a jailhouse lawyer that really know his stuff, right?
Yeah, you do.
After that guy got killed, I kind of changed my life around. I stopped doing stuff. I stopped. I would fight to defend myself, but I would never hit nobody first anymore. And I was very cognizant of the fact that in a fight, people can die. And I didn't need anybody else to die. I didn't want any more lives on my soul, right? I'm not going to say conscious, I'm going to say soul, because I've struggled to let that go because Allah and his prophet, Islam tells me that when I took my Shahada, that was all let go of. So Allah let it go. I got to let it go. You know, so a lot of times we hold on to stuff that God wouldn't hold on to, you know, like you believe in Jesus, right?
Yes.
Jesus was about forgiveness, right?
Definitely.
And if you're going to forgive it, let it go. Just let it go. I mean, it's as simple as putting down this cup. It would seem so, but it's not, because we're human beings and we carry stuff. And by us we're the descendants of people who are robbed of their culture, of their love, of their life, of their limb, of their mentality, of their morals. We was robbed of everything and made into cattle. So we don't let stuff go because most of the time we don't have nothing else to hold on to. And
that's deep. That's deep. Don't let that go over your head right there now. That's deep.
So I mean, and most of us who have something to hold on to, we fail to hold on to it. And the Muslims would call it this thing called the rope of Allah. then you could call it the rope of God. He just throw the rope out there. He say, okay, I'm giving you a chance. Just hold on to my rope. Just hold on to my rope. Have faith, in short, in other words. Just have enough faith, right? That's holding on to the rope is having faith. That's the analogy, right? Holding on to the rope. But as black men, as the descendants of slaves, we don't.
Definitely.
We don't have them. We never had, a lot of people go to church and they cry and they jump up and down. And as I've seen Muslims on the mat, they're making prayer, they be crying, because they love God, right? And I know they love God. They know they love God. And that emotion that drives you to cry is a reaction to your not holding on the rope, to your holding on to guilt, to your saying, I'm unworthy. I'm not ready. I'm unworthy of you, God. I'm not worthy of you. Why are you loving me? And when you just have to accept that God loves you. And we attach strings to stuff. We hold on to the rope, but then we got other strings in our hands. In the other hand, right?
You're right. You're right.
We attach strings to everything. And as human beings, man, we have to turn the corner in our faith, right? We have to turn the corner.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've turned the corner. I now hold on to the rope, and when I know that Satan is getting rambunctious, because Satan is real. He's real. He's real. Okay, Muslims have a part of our al-Fatiha, or the opening prayer, that says Siratal Mustaqim, right? That's the straight path, right? Keep to your straight path in life. Keep on the straight path from birth to death, from birth to Allah, from birth to the resurrection, then to the judgment, then to Allah, right? Those aren't hurdles. Those are just stops along the way. But on that straight path, you meet Satan, because he's a believer. Satan believes in Allah. He believes in God. His job is to push us off, to claim as many as he can. We fall off the straight path, but those with faith get back on, because we know we're going to slip and fall, because we're human. That's just it. And I slip and fall. I know when I look at the wall and I see this man's face as he's falling, that's Satan trying to pull me back into that. And I just say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? That's I seek refuge in Allah. I seek refuge in the God from Satan, the rejected one, right? The accursed one, right? That's just it, man.
So let's go back to when you, I guess when you went down for when they gave you the natural life, right? How did you or the natural life? How did you feel, or was that when you really turned to your faith?
No,
examining yourself.
As a matter of fact, my first couple of months, I handled my faith like it was a hot potato, and I couldn't get rid of it fast enough.
Okay.
Because they sent me to the penitentiary, the Maryland Penitentiary. And in there, in 1971, 72, I was one of the youngest dudes there. There was a couple of dudes that was the era in time just before the war on drugs started.
Yeah. And
they was cracking down, and wasn't no lot of young kids in the penitentiary. All them guys in there were old. They were like in their 60s and 70s and 50s. And they was all in there humping on each other, 65% of them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
When I got in there, I realized I had to be very, very careful. But the first thing I had to do was establish that I wasn't no punk, because I had jailed around them Baltimore boys once before. A lot of them Baltimore boys is freaks and perverts, nasty folks, right?
Yeah.
And They think it's all right to go to jail and do that and then get out and be with a woman. They think it's okay. It's standard operating procedure. So I was coming out of, I had been on diagnostic for 30 days. They fast tracked me through diagnostic because I had natural life. They said
What's diagnostic? Where they check your mental state?
No, diagnostic is where it's classification.
Okay.
And in those days, diagnostic was half of the penitentiary, was A block of the penitentiary. B block was population. But A block, we all had white jumpsuits. And you go there for testing, diagnostics, check your health, like you would a horse. Okay. A mule you're going to take in the field. We're going to check it and make sure it's healthy. And they didn't care about no mental states. And let me slow down a minute. When I was in the county jail, before I went to trial, my lawyer said, well, we'll put in a insanity plea. And I told him, I'm not crazy. I wasn't insane. I was just fighting back. Because I told him what happened. He said, no, but we're going to do this because since you can't take the stand, right? Because I would have took the stand. But he said, they're going to bring up the fact that you just got out for a homicide, right? And that's going to get you the death penalty. So everything was done to avoid the death sentence, right? So they sent me to Clifton T. Perkins. Well, just before they sent me to Perkins, I got in an altercation with the police in Upper Marlboro with the deputy sheriffs. I had a big fat lieutenant. I called him Hog Neck. His neck was big and fat. And hey, nigga boy. So I took a number 2 pencil and stabbed him in his neck, broke it off. And he went screaming, oh, but his 5 buddies, they must grew these rednecks in the field somewhere. They was big. They had shoes this big. They chained me, they chained me to the bottom of a grill in an isolation area, and they stomped me for 10, 15 minutes at least. They broke my breastbone, my jaw, kicked out my teeth, broke my shoulder, messed up my knees, and one of them took special care, stomped me on my privates until they were swollen black, right? They wanted to kill me, but my lawyer came the next day for something I don't know. And he said, y'all can't do this. Y'all can't do this. Y'all can't do this. So instead of sending me to the hospital, they sent me to the Maryland Penitentiary instead of safekeeping. They said other inmates that did it to me. When they didn't, it was the police. The inmates would have shanked me up, or heck, some of them would have been hurt because I'd been in a couple of. I fought 10 men in the block one day, 10 killers on the block, 9 killers on the block. I fought them and beat all of them up. So, I was a beast. I mean, I was terrible. I was a beast, and I didn't care. I didn't care at all about nothing. If that's what you want, this what you want, okay, then I'm gonna give it to you until I get tired, right? So, I was all beat up and swole up and stuff, and the penitentiary didn't want me. So they actually took the chains off me and left me on the front step of the Maryland Penitentiary under the numbers 954 in brass, big brass numbers. And I couldn't get up and walk. My leg was I don't know, my knee wasn't broke, but it was so boogered up. My groin was so swollen, and I couldn't half see. So they came out and got me and brought me inside. They held me there for 60 days. No, 35 days. 40 days, something, it wasn't long, and never let me see a doctor. So the court order came through for me to go to Clifton T. Perkins for my psychiatric evaluation. And I went there, and they said, who beat you up? I said, the officers, the guards, the deputy sheriffs in Upper Marlboro. So well, you haven't been there for the 39, 40, 42 days, like that, right? I said, well, this is how bad they beat. So they was trying to kill me because I almost killed one of them. So my lawyer must have made a lot of noise and made some waves or something. But they never charged me with stabbing that lieutenant. Never charged, right? But this guy named Hamilton, Dr. Hamilton at Clifton T. Perkins, they had me there 3 days. They had one interview with me for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes max. And they told the court that I had an IQ of 45. I was barely functioning, illiterate. I was sociopathic, psychopathic, and prone to homicide and suicide. This what they put in my jacket. This is what they put in my file. They came in court with all of that, right? And my lawyer read it off to the jury. And that's the only reason why they didn't give me the death penalty, because they felt sorry for me because I was sitting there like this, you know, and I knew I was going to prison. I thought I was gonna get the death penalty. I thought I was gonna die, because Judge Boyd, he kept doing his glass like this, looking at me, right?
Yeah.
He's a real rebel redneck. I went, you know what, Judge Boyd, I hope they buried him face down. So on the resurrection, when we come back, he had to go through China. You know, yeah.
Go through China, you said.
So they gave me natural life. They said came back with first degree murder without capital punishment. Judge Boyd threw his glasses on the air. What? He was all set to send me to my death. He was really, really trying to. And at that point in my life, I seen, you know, this is what a real hateful redneck is. This guy right here. This guy hates my guts. You know, because I wasn't in there for robbing or molesting or killing no white people or nothing like that. The guy that I killed was himself a 4-time convicted felon. He was a terrible, terrible guy. He used to call him Killer Tom, because he was gonna kill me. He was a killer. Anyway, I used all that stuff against him to get out of prison. All that stuff, all that psychological stuff, psychiatric stuff. When I hit the penitentiary, and when I came out of classification, I came out of the clothing room with my stuff. This guy named Benny Green was leaning up on the wall, and he had a cigar in his mouth, and he had a bag of commissary on the floor between his legs. And he looked at me and said, "You know, this is yours if you want it." And I took that another number 2 pencil out of my pocket and walked over to him and stuck it right in his eye. What? And he went running down the yard screaming about my and he was an older guy. He was about in his 40s. He's an inmate.
Okay.
He was telling me that I was a pretty boy and that he would be my man. But if he give me this commissary, that, you know, so when I stared him in his eye, I figured I earned that commissary. I took that commissary and went to myself. You know, and after that, it was on and popping for about 6 months. And every time I turn around, I had went and sharpened me a piece of steel up and I was stabbing somebody. You know, I made a reputation in there of being a damn fool, excuse my language, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anything but a sissy.
Definitely.
You know, so and one of the things that happened to me my first week there, I met a guy named Nicholas Bagley. And Nick Bagley told me after I stabbed that guy in his eye, here's what you got to do, because things are changing in the system. He was an old head. He was a lifer. Everybody said, man, Nick Bagley crazy, but he was crazy like a fox. The most intelligent man I met while I was in there, for real. And he told me how to do my time. And because everybody was saying, you got natural life, you're going to die, and it doesn't mean till you die. They had it wrapped backwards. You know, guys, see, I found out most of them couldn't read and write. So why are they giving me advice? I never take advice. And why would I walk down the street and the dog is barking? And I'm going to lean over and say, what you say? Okay, I hear you. I'm going to take that advice.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make sense. You know, it just doesn't make sense. So I did what Nick said. Nick said, get a job up there with him in the hospital as a sanitation guy so I could learn some stuff, so he could teach me some stuff. He had me psychological journals to read and memorize. See, I stuttered real bad. I couldn't talk. I couldn't verbalize. See how we talking right now?
Mm-hmm.
Back in those days, never happened. Never happened. Never, 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 never. They said I had an IQ of 45. It was more like 130.
Okay.
And I'm laughing now because I tricked the hell out of them. I mean, I tricked.
How did you trick them?
Well, the first thing I did was I got the job in the hospital to prove I was trustworthy, safe, right? That I would not bother the women or the guards, right? Because the guy worked at the front door down there, Libertini, a little sergeant, he deserved killing if anybody ever deserved killing. But I let it go, And he would talk bad, call me the N-word and all kind of stuff. And he was Italian. And I just said, yes, sir, no, sir, and kept it moving. Then Nick said, you got to get a job in maintenance and you got to prove yourself to be really trustworthy to the warden. And I did. I worked 3 years as an institutional plumber. They taught me plumbing. Sent me to their little school and everything in there. Like an on-the-job training. A guy named Columbus Taylor taught me everything about plumbing, institutional plumbing, penitentiary plumbing, right? The deal was this. Patuxent Institution in the state of Maryland was changing over from defective delinquent to eligible person. Now, defective delinquent was a program they had in place. If you had 3 years, they could hold you for 100 years while they work on your brain. Yeah.
Wow.
And look up defective delinquent state of Maryland, Article 31B.
Hold on, let me see. I got to do this right now. Defective delinquent.
Yeah. In the state of Maryland, Patuxent Institution. But in 1975, they changed it from defective delinquent to eligible person.
Was that still the same plan though, right?
Well, no, a different plan. Now, on the eligible person law, they have definite things they had to look for. Like I had an intellectual deficiency, and I was emotionally disturbed. An emotional deficiency, right? And I fit that category to a T. But I had life, and I was maximum security. What solved that was the plumbing job. What the plumbing job did, it put me in a position to be transferred to a place called the Maryland House of Correction. You couldn't be in the House of Correction with max security. So they had to lower my security to medium, right? And put me in the cut, Maryland House of Correction, or what they call the cut. And that made me eligible for Patuxent. Because see, I couldn't go to Patuxent from the penitentiary with life.
Okay.
And here, how I tricked them was this. While I was at the penitentiary, I memorized, several books. But the thing I read, the doctor I remember the most is a doctor named Eric Burney. And he wrote a book called The Games People Play, another book called What Do You Say After You Say Hello?
You said the what super play?
He said the games people play.
Okay.
You can look it up. It's a good book. You could use it today to navigate through everything in the world. Because
the games people play.
The games people play.
And then, what do you say after you say hello?
Yeah. Games people play was a little thin book. The games people play was a big book. It was a textbook. But so I memorized all that stuff. I memorized all of it. So when I got to Patuxent, I had 12 psychiatrists on the board. They held me there for 60 days, and then they certified me as an eligible person. When they did this, they changed my commitment from a criminal commitment to a civil commitment. Feel me? Under a civil commitment, you can walk out of jail tomorrow with a life sentence. But
okay.
And so my first trick on them was when I got there, I conformed to what the housing unit at 4 house units, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I was on house unit 1 or 1 therapeutic unit 1.
Okay.
They wanted me to just sit in therapy and talk about my violence. about my motivations for violence, and that was easy to do. You know,
Okay.
they couldn't believe that they had gotten somebody so that so pliable that they thought they could like get in my head and engineer whatever they want. They
Yeah.
they all was like Dr. Frankenstein syndrome, right?
Okay.
So when I got on the unit, I had 4 levels to go through: level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I blew through them in about a year and a half, right? And I ended up at a place called a pre-release center. 18 months after I went in there, and mind you, with a naturalized no, not pre-release. It's pre-release. I had to go to weekend leaves and then work release, day leaves, weekend leaves, and then work release, and that had to happen in a year's time. But now they fast tracked me for real, because I was like their golden boy, because they believed that they had got in my head and that they had screwed me up really bad, right? But see now, the thing with Patuxent was, and with all psychiatric institutions and all psychological people, is 98% of them gay.
Okay.
And
you mean the doctors or the subjects, the inmates?
The doctors, the PhDs, the MDs, the DDSs, whatever they got, right? And they want to believe that you can change from being the guy I was to a kind of gentler guy, like what they wanted, that maybe I had some gay traits, right?
Yeah.
And I let them to believe that.
Okay.
All I had to do was just don't do nothing stupid and don't get physical with nobody.
Okay.
Violently, sexually, or no other way. Now, I didn't do boys, so that was no problem. But
yeah.
But it was a problem because one of the social workers there, she was hot on me like she was like maple syrup trying to get put on a pancake.
Yeah.
And I ducked and dodged her for a year and a half, 2 years. Right? Now, according to the Division of Correction in the state of Maryland, to do a life sentence, you get a parole hearing in 15 years. What Patuxent did was when I got 15 years in, now 15 years is not 15 years. 15 years is 11 and a half years.
So you had did 11 and a half?
11 and a half, and I was walking out the door on community parole. And the entire state went into a shock. They was down in Annapolis with signs. Ralph Wilkins is a killer. Lock him back up. Lock him back up. He's a killer. And Patuxent was saying, he's been through therapy. He's well. He's sick. He's well. We certify that he never kill again. Matter of fact, he ain't going to get in a fight. And they was right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, but that was so back in 72 when I hit first at the penitentiary. I wasn't going to kill nobody or get in no real serious fights then. But no, to keep the butthole bandits off my butt, to keep my butt cheeks held together, I had to do some stuff, right?
Do what you had to do.
Yeah. So, and I was laughing, man. I was on the way home the day they released me. My brother picked me up, and I was laughing. He was, "What you laughing so hard for?" I say, "Man, I just tricked the hell out of a room full of PhDs." Because he said, my brother looked at me and said, "What?" I said, No. It ain't gonna be like that. I ain't getting in no trouble, nothing like that. But they thought they had me under their thumb. They really thought that they could change me around. No, but my mind was like a steel trap because I had Islam. I had taken my Shahada serious after a minute, but when I was at Patuxent, I used to I never made a prayer.
Okay.
Because I didn't want them Jews to know what I was doing, because they homosexuals and they Jews and you don't want to deal with that. I want. I proved my point. I got out, but I was only out like 700 days when PG County rolled up on me, shot me in my leg, my right leg, burned me. He didn't in the leg, but just creased me.
Wait a minute. So you was out you said 700 days?
Yeah.
So that's 2 years, basically.
almost 2 years. They
So what happened? What made them do that?
because PG County was upset that I was out. Judge Bowie said, I don't want him out. I want him back in prison, and do what you got to do to get him back in prison. But hey, because I got 3 jobs. Every time I get a job, they'll go by there and say, you got a 2-time convicted killer, and he's on parole from a mental institution. And the people say, oh no, we didn't know that, and they fired me. Boom.
So how long was your parole supposed to last?
It was supposed to last 3 years.
3
And
years.
they were supposed to, after 3 years, take me back to the governor, and he was going to sign off on me. But the whole political picture changed while I was out.
Okay.
The whole thing changed, and they was pulling guys in, and because they would pull them in and tell them, look, you're gonna be here 6 months, and we'll let you back out. These guys only had 10 years. I had life. What they gonna do with me? I was a grand experiment.
So they was pulling guys back in at the end of their parole or during their parole?
At the end, before they could get off altogether, they was pulling back in and then letting them a short time out, or flat time out, right? So I said, well, I can't flat time out because one of the things they did when they gave me my civil commitment, they civilly committed me from natural life to life. What they did when they did that, they enhanced my sentence illegally.
So basically, if they wanted to keep you in that institution for the rest of your life, they could have had.
Yeah, but they wouldn't. They would have brought me back and bounced me back and forth between Patuxent and Division of Correction for the next 20 years until somebody killed me or I die from pneumonia, the flu, or something like that, right? So what I did is the night that they arrested me, they said I broke into a liquor store. I don't drink. What am I breaking a liquor store for?
Was that the same night that they shot you?
Yeah. They shot me and drugged me. They shot me on the street and drugged me up to the parking lot with somebody who had broken into the store. They took guns and money and liquor. I didn't have nothing on me. I was wearing a suit and a tie because I was working at a nightclub as a bouncer in Bladensburg, a spot called the Tip Top in Bladensburg, Maryland. I had nothing to do with none of that, right? I said, okay, all right. So it was a Saturday night, Sunday morning early. They took me in front of the magistrate, and I went in there dressed like I haven't robbed nothing. I said, they shot me in my leg, and they took me to the doctor. He said, I wouldn't look. He said, what? Take him to the hospital. He said, Mr. Wilkins, you're released on your own recognizance till we can come to the bottom of this. So it's 2 police, a male and female, both of them black, PG County. Because PG County went from all white to almost all black. Well, in those 11 and a half years I was gone, right? Mm-hmm. But I was 31 years old now. I'm not a kid anymore. And I'm a grown man who act like a grown man, who handle his business like a grown man. I walked out the hospital and I caught me a ride to Atlanta. And I was off and running for 20 years.
So you broke the parole and went down to Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right. So look, this is what we're gonna do, man, because we got a lot of much more. We got a lot of story to cover, right? So what I'm gonna do, man, if it's all right with you, I'm gonna bring you back next week. Would that be fine to continue the story? Because
sure. So the same time, Tuesday night?
Same time, same place, 8:00, and we gonna start. We gonna start off right on this part of the talk. I know it's a lot of interesting stuff in this 20 years as well.
Okay, so, but I started writing.
Okay.
And I wrote this book called The Sayings of Samad. I wrote this book, Emotional 2. And I wrote this book, Emotional 3. These Emotional 2 and 3 are poetry books, but it's poetry describing incidents from my life. Each poem is like a little short story.
Yeah, we gonna get into them next week. We're gonna let you read a couple of them because I got all three of them: emotional 1, emotional 2, emotional 3, and the sands of Samad. So we definitely going to get into that because that's some very deep stuff, man. Like I said, we only touched the surface tonight. You know, he gave us a little bit of wisdom in between, talking about the when you first got sentenced. But it's so much more I know that you got to give us. So, you know, we gonna do another show next week. We're gonna start off from this point, but we're gonna also go to the writing, to the other experiences, some more knowledge, you know, talk about the, you know, just everything, man. Because like I said, I enjoy talking to you, and I'm gonna try not to talk to you until the show next week, so I won't get the questions out that I want to ask already.
Okay, just so your listeners know, I have had women in my life, and Nick, when we come back, we'll talk about some of them superstars that I messed up.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that as well as just a lot of stuff, man. But in the meantime, if you do want to, get his books by next week, they on Amazon, right? Are they on Amazon?
Yeah, under Ralph Wilkins.
Ralph Wilkins. So look up Ralph Wilkins. Until next week, we're gonna thank y'all for tuning in. First of all, thank y'all regular listeners for tuning in. We're gonna be right back here next week. That'll be December the 6th, I think, or the 5th, one of them. And we're gonna continue this story, man. We're gonna give you another deep look into the life of my brother, Ralph Wilkins, better known as Atif. You said what's the whole name again?
Atif Abdus Samad.
Atif Abdus Samad. That's right. We're gonna talk with him next week. Anything real quick you want to leave our audience before we go?
Yeah. You never know who you are until you find God, and you're not going to find God until you find yourself. It's as simple as that. When you find yourself and who you are, and that's introspection. You look inside yourself. It's like you close your eyes and look into the mirror. That's, and you want to see who you are, really the essence of you, but you got to stop looking so you can see.
Oh, I like it. I like that. You got to stop looking for you going to see. We ain't going to give you no more. We're going to be with y'all next week, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week at 8 p.m. Here on the U-Turn Show. Thank y'all. Y'all have